I just spent $70,000 on a new music app. But why? After all, I'm just a dropshipper. I don't play music, I'm not a programmer, but I do love Kanye West. And recently, Netflix just dropped a new documentary about Kanye before the fame, when he was an up-and-coming producer making beats for Jay-Z, but was still struggling financially and couldn't get signed by big labels to be a rapper. And he could have easily lost confidence in himself, and the world would have never been blessed with 808s and heartbreaks or graduation. Imagine a world without that. But this all happened because he just didn't have the resources to promote himself on his own without a label's help. And that's a common reality for millions of talented musicians in the world today. And that's where I saw the potential to create a solution that could be the next SoundCloud, but for the next generation of artists. And I saw this as a huge win for listeners and consumers like myself, who constantly just listen to J. Cole and Billie Eilish, but I would love to discover new artists in an all new way. And this idea came to me in the kitchen where Chef Ethan Ramsay was cooking up the world's greatest grilled cheese sandwich, so tasty that even your mother would be proud of me. And I'm not really an ideas guy, but this really just hit me after listening to my girlfriend every single day tell me about the struggles of becoming a musician after she had been trying to do it for the last 10 years. And I basically just told her, try to make your music blow up on TikTok, because that just seems to be where all the new music and songs are trending. But I was like, what if there was a platform that was like TikTok, but just for music? Because obviously as viewers, we tend to gravitate way more towards short form content. We can easily binge watch it, and that's why TikTok is becoming the #1 app in the world. It went all in on this short form content craze. So I thought, instead of having artists promote and try to publish their full length songs, why don't they just make samples that are 15 to 30 seconds long on an all new app so that new listeners can listen to them, and if they really like these samples, then they would go out and check the full songs of these new artists. And obviously this idea sounded great to me, but actually building an app costs a ton of money and a lot of time investment. So I decided to make a business plan as the first step. And as you can see right here, these were the sort of criteria that I decided to come up with. First off, I needed a name for this app. I had no idea what to call it, so I just came up with a bunch of keywords in the niche to try to figure out what could be a good assortment, a good conjunction of words that would eventually become the name of my $1 million app. And then after that, I need an unparalleled corporate logo that could rival that of Apple, Spotify, SoundCloud, all these different music apps out there, because obviously you need that logo. That is the face of the brand. Then getting down here, I had different things like, hey, what's my color scheme going to be? What's sort of the price point? What's going to be the revenue strategy? You need to have a way to monetize the app. And then there's other little things like, hey, who am I going to market this to? What's the brand identity going to be like? And obviously, why is my app different than everything else out there? And that's the #1 question you have to ask yourself when you're building an app. How is your company better, different than the rest of the competition? Otherwise, investors aren't going to choose you, and there's no way you're going to capture the majority of the market share in whatever niche that you want. So for me, I realized I wanted to combine TikTok and Spotify into one. And the crazy thing is, I would say my major competitor is SoundCloud. SoundCloud's very similar, where they want to help enable indie artists. They want to give them a platform to get discovered. But for me, I just realized after digging, SoundCloud is just so old, and it just hasn't updated in so long that there has to be a new solution for people, especially if you're a smaller artist that wants to blow up and make this a career and monetize your career and build an audience of people. I really feel like there can be better solutions out there. So I decided to take it upon myself to do that. I know it's crazy, a 20-year-old dropshipper. I've never built an app before in my life, but this is what I decided to do as my company differentiator. And then when we compare it to big apps like Spotify or Apple Music, they're really just after the bigger artists. They're after the Billie Eilishes, they're after the Michael Jackson. They make 70% of their money on older music that's already been out there. They don't really make it on these newer artists. So that's why they're always trying to buy catalogs, and they're trying to become the place where you can listen to all music. But I really want to be the place for smaller artists. So that's the majority of the market that I want to capture in the beginning, especially like with Facebook. Facebook wasn't trying to market to everybody. They were trying to initially get college students. They started with Harvard, they started with a few other universities after that. They got to Stanford and then Texas and all these different places. That's where they started. You have to start small, and I feel like that's going to be my market. So I came up with a ton of different name suggestions like Listen X, Listen Up, Toonly, MusicWire, and eventually I came up with my list of 4, and it was Soundly, SoundSpot, VoiceUp, and SoundTide. Now, initially, I actually chose SoundTide, and then I went into the next step of building out my MVP. And if you want to build an app, you have to have an MVP because it's much more affordable, and it's a good way to gauge if the market actually wants your product. So if you eventually want to build a Ferrari, you need to build a scooter first, because that tells you, hey, what's the problem you're trying to solve? transportation. So if your scooter can accomplish that, getting from one place to the other, then you can get more funding and start building more improvements and going from just a little itty bitty scooter to a jacked out supercar. And by the title of this video, you know how expensive it is just to build an MVP. It's a lot of freaking money. So initially you want to start out with wireframes. Wireframes is basically like different mock-up images of your app and what it should look like for your developers when they're making it, because you don't want to have any issues where, hey, you just tell them some basic ass information and then they're just going to do all the design things. No, that's not how it works. Every single detail is meticulously planned, from the buttons, from what the buttons are going to do. Every single thing is thought of before coding ever begins. Now, this took me weeks to do because I am not a designer. I suck with mockups. I am not the most creative person in the world, but I was able to use Adalo, which is a no-code app, to create these different wireframes that I eventually sent over to a designer on Fiverr that made them look all pretty, and that's what we used for the mockups. Now, when we go here, you can see I had different sort of login pages. So this would be the default page. We had a sign up page, login, and I mean every single page you need to develop in order to build your app. So if we go here to the right, we have like the profile view, we have the explore page. I really wanted to build, like I said, something that's very similar to TikTok and also Spotify. And then this is what the first ever user profile looked like. We have the following count, the listener count, how many streams the artist has. I mean, I was really proud of this. And the crazy part about this tool is you can actually preview and sort of use your app and see how all the different pages interact. And it took me a while to do because every single button you have to frame. You have to know what the next step is gonna be. And that's what all these little arrows are. So if you click this button, it goes to this page. When you do this, there's a response. You have to plan out every single thing, and it is an absolute pain in the ass. So if we go here to preview, let me just see what we can do here, because I believe I was able to actually use this app in a way, you know, it's very basic. So you can do the sign up, and then we have all the different questions. So let me sign up right now. And then from here, you can choose a profile photo. You can have your full name, your username, your birthday. I mean, now it is much more sophisticated, but I just wanted to keep it simple. So from here, you can upload a different file. I can do it super easy. Full name, Ethan Dobbins. Username, CEO, president. Yes, sir. Birthday, let's just keep it the same day. And looking at this, I mean, it is so cool to reminisce. And when you track everything, it's just crazy to see how much your app is gonna progress. I mean, looking at this, you got your music following, I got the like, I got the comment. It's super hard to see, I know, but when you click the explore page, it goes to explore page and you see all the different users. These are all the ones I created. We got the create button. So this is how you would upload your song or your sample. Then we have different options like your inbox. So this is where you get notifications, your profile. But honestly, it's so basic that I'm a little bit embarrassed. But everyone starts somewhere. So the next step after this was actually getting the different mockups. So if I go right here, I went to this Fiverr designer. I'm like, dude, you gotta pretty this up because I had no idea what I'm doing. The color scheme is all off. So I was able to get these really cool mockups that this guy was able to pretty much dream of after looking at my app. Now, this is the initial logo I went with. I'll show you the logos that I got. And then this is what the interface was. And I was like, wow, this is pretty cool. I mean, the buttons are a little lifeless, but I like that when you're hovering on it, it's red. You got the like, comment, share. We got all these different screens right here. I'll just try to rapid fire through them. But this is what initially the app was supposed to look like. And then for creating samples, I wanted people to upload their full song and then they would have like this little slider that's very similar to TikTok where they could select their music. So that's what we ended up going with. But the next part, the crucial corporate logo. This is where we build our billion-dollar brand. And really, I just needed something decent. I paid $100 to 5 different designers, and I'm sure if this app really takes off, I'll pay $20,000 to some creative agency that will just make some basic minimalist logo, and I go, oh my God, that's the greatest thing ever. But when we look at these, I mean, this one was a little basic to me. I didn't like it. This one I thought was decent. It could have been the move. I saw this and I was like, yeah, that's the one. And you can tell, I am not the best at picking logos. I'm not the most creative. But eventually, after going through each, this is the logo that we went with. I like the minimalist design. I don't know, I'm a sucker for it. I've gotten a lot of people saying, oh, it looks ugly, it's super basic, whatever. Everyone's gonna say that, everyone has a different taste. And then after this, I decided to create my social media accounts because I'm a social media guru out here. I was making some very relatable memes. I'm talking 50 likes on the first post, March 31st, nearly a year ago. And then we created some TikToks. I will admit, I have not figured out TikTok yet, but eventually we are gonna get some amazing organic traffic from that. So I can't wait. But that was really the next step until we got to this. And that was coming up with our business plan, because if you're really gonna take this serious, you need to know what the next steps are gonna be, how much finances you're gonna need, how are you gonna acquire users, what are the metrics that you're gonna measure, how are you solving the problem, what problem is there to solve, what are your competitors? There are so many questions when you're starting a new app, especially one that you feel like can be the one, the 8-figure, the 9-figure exit. So for me, I started with, hey, what's the problem? And I'm not gonna show you this entire document, but just to show you briefly, like, hey, here's the solution I came up with, here's the market. I actually did end up changing this. I'm gonna be marketing it to 13 to 19-year-olds, because everyone knows whatever the kids are using, whatever teenagers are using is gonna be the future. You look at Facebook, you look at TikTok, that's where I'm gonna be aiming to market. I want the young demographic, these younger musicians that are about to blow up. And really, this became the pillar of every single decision that I made. So like I said, this is a 30-page document. It covers finances, it covers marketing plan, it covers a lot of detailed things I just can't show you. This is for investors' eyes only. So if you are willing to invest into the next SoundCloud for the next generation of artists, then definitely hit me up. And then after this, I decided to build a WordPress website. Now, I eventually actually paid someone to finish this to add some cool animations. It ended up costing about $500, I believe. So it was just a very simple website like this, where we have different buttons. So if you're on Android, you can download directly from the Google Play Store. From iOS, you got the Apple App Store. So we made this cool little website. It was super easy, super nice to have. And then I decided to conduct some interviews. And I basically interviewed a bunch of smaller artists, but where I got the most knowledge was interviewing these music teachers on YouTube, the ones that give advice to smaller artists on how to grow because they've been able to do it for themselves. And when I was interviewing them and telling them about the idea, they all remarked about how innovative it was, how this could be a huge pain point solver for a lot of their current students that hate marketing their music. Because I really learned from all this. Musicians love making music, they hate promoting it. They hate making videos for TikTok and social media. They'd rather just post their music and let it speak for itself. And I will admit, that was when I really decided to hunker down and be like, all right, I need to take this serious. This can really change a lot of people's lives. It solves a huge pain point for these smaller artists, and I get it. If you're an artist nowadays, a lot of times it depends on how good you are in video. I mean, look at Tekashi69. It depends if, hey, are you really good looking? Are you really attractive? I don't think the next Ed Sheeran, if they were trying to really make it nowadays, it would happen in the same way. And I'm not saying Ed Sheeran's not good looking on his day, but you get what I mean. Now, it gets real. I gotta figure out how to code this app. Am I gonna do it? Am I gonna hire someone? I've never built an app. I've never coded anything in my life. I'm a marketing guy. I'm a dropshipper at the end of the day. So I decided to actually enroll into a Udemy course. It was this one right here, where I did learn a lot about coding and programming, but God, if you're gonna build something this complex, that's gonna be a social media app with all these algorithms and a machine learning and all this stuff, yeah, I'm not gonna learn how to do that in 1 year. So I decided to go into Upwork, and I was like, all right, I wanna spend the least amount of money as possible in this MVP. And that eventually became my biggest mistake. So I posted a job request for about $5,000. I was hoping I could get a team that could build my app on iOS. This was the exact job posting. You can copy this if you want. But personally, what happened is I got a lot of different proposals. I interviewed people for a few weeks, and I eventually settled on a team. Now, I eventually went with this team called Mobilite that said they could give me around 8 of their employees for $5,000. They would build the app. Now, obviously it is in India, but they have built music playing apps, so I was very confident in them. They've done over 2 million on Upwork, as you can see right here. So I was like, all right, let's do it. I know you're qualified. Let's get started. And from here with this team, we basically talked for about a month where we figured out what are the key features that we're gonna keep in this app and what are we not gonna keep. Because again, we have to build the scooter. We can't have all the cool features because it costs a lot of money. So as you can see right here, this was the product MVP sheet. We basically had user journeys. So you need to plan out what are the users gonna do and what is gonna be the end result. What do you want them to do to solve their pain point? Now, after we figured out all of this, we figured out our pains and gains, then we got into all the different features. So we had things like creating playlists, we had direct messages, we had the profile page, we had all these different features, and we basically labeled them by how high impact are they? How much are they actually gonna solve the problem of these small artists getting promoted and getting their music out there? So we eventually included stuff like an admin panel, a server for storing music, so that's AWS, a For You feed, uploading music, all of this stuff we knew we needed, and we eventually got rid of stuff like direct messages. Search page we did end up keeping, creating playlists we did end up keeping. The share system we're still actually working on right now, but but for the most part, we had to get rid of a few key things that I just knew were gonna cost too much money. And once we figured out all that and coding began, I decided to launch my first ads just to see how I was able to acquire a customer and what that cost would actually look like. So as you can see right here, we started with Facebook ads and we spent a decent amount of money, about $3,000 in total. And we go to the right, I mean, these ads were absolutely hitting. Your boy knows how to make a good ad. And we were getting cost per leads of under $1, which is insane in any app. You would kill for that. A lot of people are averaging around $3 to $10 per lead. And really, all I did to market this was make very relatable memes, because you know those musicians love a good meme. And out of all the memes that I tested, this was the one that easily got the most engagement. People were getting riled up, they were commenting, Facebook loved it because of that. And as you can see, it's basically just this clown begging your friends to share your music, spam commenting to promote your music, paying people to add your song, etc, etc. But this was the killer one. How he's getting cost per leads of 40 cents, 50 cents at scale. So that was how I was able to really get the whole idea as to, wow, the market clearly would like a solution like this. And then from there, once I got the email, I really couldn't do much, so I decided to create a nice email flow and active campaign that basically just told people what the app was gonna be, what they can expect, when we plan to launch, and all of those great details. And we eventually decided to go with Kickstarter to try to raise a bit of a budget to actually build this on Android as well. And this is what one of the emails actually looked like. So we got the logo, we got a nice little centered, it's super easy to read email. And basically I'm just saying, hey, we're eventually gonna start beta testing and all that stuff, which was the promise for my developers. We would start beta testing actually after a couple of months of development. So I really just wanted to get the list ready. I wanted to get them excited, and I sent them all these different emails. But after that, I needed to start brainstorming, what was the App Store optimization gonna look like? Where basically you have your listing on different app stores. And after doing a bunch of research, these were the notes I was able to compile for everything. So basically, you wanna have great App Store optimization because it's basically like SEO in a way. It's free traffic, it's free game. So if you have your listing optimized, it can really make a big deal in the searches. So I had all these different notes. I mean, you can take a screenshot if you like, but what I came up with was this. Soundly, stream free music. You want to have the main keywords of your app that people are looking up in the app name. And then for the subtitle, we ended up going with this: social music, audio, and MP3 player. Those were just keywords I saw that a lot of people were trying to rank for. Then for the screenshots, this is what I wanted to make, and eventually I'll show you what those look like. They look super sick, but yeah, you want to come up with, yeah, what are the screenshots going to be? The first three are typically the most important ones. Then you want to have a description of the app where you have the different keywords, what your app's going to be, and basically just giving the whole description out. And this was the whole listing. And yes, I eventually went the Kickstarter route. Call me poor, call me whatever you want, but I knew this was my first ever real business where you're getting investors, where it's like Shark Tank and you're pitching it and you want to get people backing you up. It's not like dropshipping. So I really wanted to feel what it was like to do that. So I hired this guy, this really sexy guy. He made a nice voiceover for this animated, well, it's not really animated, but it's a short explainer video for the app. So I'll just play like a good 5 to 10 seconds so you can get a feel.
Soundly is the first social media platform where artists can create quick 15, 30-second samples of their music that automatically get shared with hundreds of real listeners from around the world.
So I made this kind of cheesy explainer video, I ran some ads, and eventually we made absolutely nothing, because if you don't reach your funding goal, you make nothing. So it was an absolute flop, and it wasn't the biggest deal to me. I would have loved the $15,000 because that was basically going to be the budget for building the Android version of the app. And I made this whole entire page. It was super nice, and these are the App Store screenshots that eventually were made. So you can take a look at them. I mean, they're really nice. But yeah, it just ended up flopping. But deep down, I will admit the Kickstarter did lower my motivation a bit. Only seeing $1,000, I was really expecting to create this community, but I wasn't seeing the support. And while this was happening, my developer team was giving me bad news. They were saying that certain features I wanted could no longer be made, and they were late on a lot of deadlines. And it's like, dang, you know, as you can see right here, I paid them $5,500, but it ended up being a complete nightmare. Now, I'll see if I have some video footage of what the app looked like, but it just ended up being a complete mess. The designs were really rough. I could tell they didn't have a creative bone in their body. It's just these were developers trying to make this amazing, beautiful app, but it looked horrible and it wasn't performing well either. And eventually after 2 months, I decided to cut the cord. And even on my social media, if you really want to get all the details about that, I made a video explaining just how they overpromised. They said they could do all these different features. They couldn't. They lied to me saying that they were in America, that they had American developers. They weren't. It was just, it sucked. It really did. So I realized I had to go back to the drawing board, and I either need to find a technical co-founder that would have to give equity to the company that probably has all of the things that I don't have skill-wise to develop something, or I need to find another mobile app developer. And I will admit, it's really tough, and this is a decision you have to make with your app. If you are non-technical, whether you want a co-founder, and that's a marriage in itself, you have to really like the person, you have to be invested, they have to be invested as well, because a lot of times the major problem with having that is disputes and arguments, and that can lead to the company completely failing. So I decided to go local, and I went to a bunch of these different developers in Miami that's slowly becoming a technical hotbed. It's almost the next Silicon Valley, if you really want to put it that way. But yeah, after talking to a bunch of teams, I showed them what our app looked like, and they were laughing at me because they basically said that these developers were not building an app for iOS. They built a web app, and they lied to me saying that it was supposed to be for the Apple App Store. And I was like, oh my God, I can't believe this. I've been completely scammed by these people. I paid them all this money, and they built me a faulty app that doesn't work. And the reason why it doesn't work is because they didn't build it for the platform it was supposed to be used on. And honestly, I really blame my parents for never putting me in coding classes. Like, I was really good at math, and I'm sure if they pushed me, I would have learned and became the next Mark Zuckerberg. But because I know absolutely nothing about coding, I could never figure this out. So after learning all this, I was like, damn, I'm an idiot. But you know what? I'm gonna do the right thing. I'm gonna pay the right price, and I'm gonna get this quality up because I know this app, if it's executed the right way, can really become something special. And after getting a bunch of proposals back, I eventually went with a team called Tekkerval. Now, you can read up their website and see all their accomplishments. I do recommend them. I thought that they were the team that showed the most passion. I went to their offices directly, and their CEO was the one talking to me, and he was just telling me how great the project is, even though obviously I'm sure they're incentivized to do that and say everything is $1 billion idea. But I could feel that out of all the teams, they were the ones that cared the most, and that's what really mattered to me. So I said that I would pay them basically $40,000 for the iOS version, and they eventually upsold me a few months later to do it on Android, but I thought that was the right decision. I had the money, so I was like, all right, I'll pay the extra 20 grand. So basically it came out to around 60 grand for building on both platforms. And I'll put up some videos of what the app looked like over time because it was an entire process. There's different phases, like the alpha phase, there's the beta phase, there's just the getting the screens and the mockups. So I'll actually show you what the mockups looked like initially. And when you work with a professional team, you really notice it. I mean, the amount of detail, it was so much more detailed than my other team that really didn't ask me for mockups or anything too crazy. I just sent them the Fiverr thing, and that's all they went off of. But when I was with this team, I mean, every single sprint, which is basically the different stages of development, was planned to the T. So I'll actually show you a bit of the basics here. So we had like pre-production. So this was us talking, then eventually getting to the design phase. So making all the different mockups for every single screen. As you can see, there's a lot of different screens here, and some of them were made, some of them were posted a little bit later for future updates. Then we had the alpha phase, so actually building the app. That's when coding begins. Then we have alpha phase part 2, building more and more pages, eventually getting into beta. And I'll show you what the wireframes actually looked like initially. Now, we have changed a bit, but basically they used, I think, Adobe Illustrator or something crazy like this, and these are all the different pages. And I mean, every single page is shown here, from the comment page to what it looks like when they forgot their password. But this is initially what we settled with for the design, and it took a lot. There was a lot of meetings about every single screen, about where the buttons are gonna be, what the design's gonna look like. There was some pushback, there was some concessions that I had to make, but it's a whole entire process. I mean, even this design phase, which seems really simple, I believe it took about a month because every single screen had to be perfect before you start that coding. So eventually we started to do some coding, we started the first sprints, and I did notice there was some issues. Mainly that with this team, the quality assurance was not great. So when you are building an app, you're gonna have a team of coders that are building the app, and once they're done coding, a lot of times they don't wanna break their code. And that's the only way that you can tell if there's bugs and there's issues with the app. You have to constantly be testing. And usually that's why with a lot of teams, they'll have their coders and then they'll have quality assurance. And the quality assurance, their whole job is to break the code. They wanna find errors and imperfections. They're like an editor of a book. They wanna spot what's wrong so they can fix it and obviously note that to the developers, hey, you gotta fix this. But the problem was, even with these more higher end developers, they were not testing their code very well. I was basically the one that was doing the quality assurance. So they would send me a build. They would say like, hey, check out these screens, test these out. And I was constantly noticing issues. There was usually 5, 10, 15, sometimes 20 different things where I was like, yeah, this thing isn't working and I don't like the way that this looks. And that was slowly becoming an issue that was adding to the time. And with apps, speed is everything. The speed to get to the market. And this was slowly becoming an issue that I noticed. I was like, damn, why is no one else testing this? Like, I should be receiving these builds and it's flawless. Like, I'm the client here, not the person who's supposed to be quality assurance. But I was noticing that they were slowly relying on me to find all these errors. And I'm like, okay, we clearly have an issue. And I'll show different builds and I'll show the notes of how I was communicating this feedback, because it took a while. It really did. And I had to figure out what was crucial. What were the things that we had to fix now? What was going to be for later? Because there were some big things that we did have to push off. But yeah, that was an issue. And eventually we realized that with the iOS team, we had to fire some people because they just weren't senior enough. They weren't good enough to build an app of this sophistication. And it sucks, but we had to have some really strict meetings where I was talking to my project manager. I'm like, listen, man, I mean, this is just not working out. I'm getting a little bit nervous. And sometimes you have to put your foot on the ground. You can't just be happy all the time, congratulating them. And that's what I learned when you're managing people. And this has definitely helped me a lot in my own managing, because I know for agencies and dropshipping, there's not really any too crazy amount of problems that you're gonna face. And a lot of times if you do face problems, you have to be super nice. You have to be the caring Gary V, always have gratitude, look at the positive. But sometimes you have to put your foot down and you have to be like, hey, there's deadlines here, there's consequences if you don't meet them. Hey, if there's issues, then there's gonna be consequences. And if you're gonna build a strong team, they need to know that. You have to put your foot down. And that was probably the main thing that I learned from leading a team. Now, we were aiming to get this done by Christmas, but because we didn't have the best iOS team, we had to fire those people, move on. And now that we're in February, we have started beta testing. And this is what the app looks like right now. If you see my phone, swipe up, swipe down, we got people uploading music. It's so amazing. If you're digging it, boom, like I mess with this. I see real musicians now using my app, and that's the coolest thing in the world to me, having people finally use your app after all of this freaking work. And you're building slowly this community, and you know, I can like, I can comment, I can share, I can add this to playlist now. I mean, this is just the whole entire app. And if you want to download this, the link is in description. But I really think it's cool. I mean, there's so many ways you can edit your profile. We have an explore page to discover new songs and different genres that you may like. We have a new page for discovering artists. I mean, this is really amazing. I'm super giddy looking at this. And for tracking beta testing, I'm basically just using Jotform. So I send an email to every one of the beta testers saying like, hey, once you try this out, once you download it, answer these questions so that we can get some great feedback. And we've been able to figure out a lot of the early bugs. So we did have some issues with uploading songs, and that was definitely a core thing that got me a little bit pissed off, because that's like Google not being able to search. But as you can see right now, we have fixed a lot of the issues. People are rating it 5 stars. I mean, this is the most recent one. If we go over here, Ruben, 5 stars, a few comments don't load properly, and a few glitches. But yeah, this is great to get feedback from different artists to just know where you can improve. And the most important thing, does it actually feel like you can solve your problem by using my app? And a lot of artists are saying, yes, I believe I can get more listeners. And that's really the key goal. Now, this did cost a lot of money. Overall, I mean, these are all the different invoices. I can show you right here. I believe each invoice comes after each sprint. So when you finish a sprint, that's when you pay. So you can see right here, $5,000. So that's one of the Android ones. If we go down here, $8,700. So that's pretty much how I had to pay everything for the iOS, $8,700, and I believe it was 5 payments of that. Then for Android, it was 3 payments of the $5,800. So you can see there's a lot of invoices. It was a lot of money. But what are the next steps? Well, the next steps is I actually am gonna hire a new social media manager, because I did hire one, but we weren't getting the best results in terms of getting new users. So I decided to post a job listing on LinkedIn, and I found someone that I really like. So we're gonna be making some more content on Instagram, TikTok, really blowing those up, hopefully figuring out what's gonna work the best. And then for next moves, I mean, we really just need to acquire new users. So I'm figuring out the marketing plan, and basically I'm asking all of the current musicians, and if you know people in your life that are musicians that can benefit from this app, I would just really, instead of even liking this video or commenting, if you could just share this to them, I really feel like this can change their life. And the more people that are on it, that are telling their audiences already, if musicians tell them, hey, I'm on Soundly, come check it out, I feel like we can really blow this app up organically. But we are obviously gonna do some paid ads. And mainly for the paid ads, I'm thinking Facebook, I'm thinking TikTok, and we're also trying to partner with some different influencers in the music space that have these big audiences so that they can shout us out on YouTube, on their Instagram. So I'm right now working on that, and that's gonna be one of the main tasks for my social media manager, to find these different influencers that we're gonna reach out to. And the final moves after this is I will eventually try to raise some funds. So I'm gonna be doing a seed round for my business, and I'm right now trying to gather some different investors on Crunchbase for similar companies that have invested in the music industry, because when you're trying to build an app, it does cost a lot of money to build a team, a real solid team of A players that can execute this strategy, because investors are looking for you to build that team. Why are you the team to execute on this idea? Because people are not going to just invest on me. I've never built an app before, and I understand that. So I look at a lot of similar companies in similar spaces like Trubify, which is another music app that's raised a lot of money. So when you're looking for investors, typically Crunchbase is the best place. So you'll look up similar companies, you'll see where did they get those investors from, and typically like Ken Borkin, Walter Crittenden, what you want to do is find them on LinkedIn. You want to send them some cold emails or see if you can get a warm connection with them and ask them for their office hours where you can pitch to them your business. And from what I've heard, you're going to get a lot of no's. And I know this from my own experience because I actually have pitched to a few investors. I came up with a business plan that's short and to the point. And this is something you'll also have to come up with if you're trying to raise funding. You need to have a business plan. So you need to talk about, hey, what's going to be the problem of your app? You can see right here, we got the solution. What's the user experience going to be like? So we have two distinct markets, so we have to make sure we are listing that. Then market validation, how much is that market worth? So we're targeting 13 to 19-year-olds. How many users have signed up? So what's your traction? What's your business model? How are you going to make money from this? What are your competitive advantages? And finally, the team. Who is going to execute on this idea? Who am I investing behind? So from what I've heard, I have a lot more work to do to actually raise funding for the seed round, but I'm incredibly excited because again, I have pitched to a few investors already. I've gotten some great feedback. And again, it's going to be building up a list of around 100 to 150 investors. And if I can find the right ones that have the right connections, because again, when you get investor money, it's also a relationship. It's like a marriage. You are working with these people for years to eventually sell your company for much more than they're investing in. So if you have a musician friend in your life that you feel like can benefit from using this app, make sure to tell them to download, watch this video, because I'm sure this will change their career. And again, I hope you enjoy this video.